Absence by Francis Nielsen. Larry Wilson. There is no anguish like the mourning heart that mourns for its lost love and mourns in vain. That is the anguish which defies all pain, torture at which Prometheus' soul would start. What agony can still the heart of joy that holds its loved one to its surging breast? All hell can rage and not disturb that rest. Then Stygian tortures are but pain's alloy. And what is absence but a gaping sore that aches and suffers every stinging thrust? A burning lesion or a bleeding rent that rives the soul of lovers to the core. When hearts in absence stronger grow, then must those hearts have held no lover's ailment. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An Allegory on Man by Thomas Parnell, 1679 to 1718. Read for LibriVox.org. An Allegory on Man. A thoughtful being, long and spare, our race of mortals call him Care. Were Homer living, well ye knew what name the gods have called him to, with fine mechanic genius wrought, and love to work, though no one bought. This being by a model bred in Jove's eternal sable head, contrived a shape empowered to breathe, and be the worldling here beneath. The man rose staring like a stake, wondering to see himself awake, then looked so wise before he knew the business he was made to do, that, pleased to see with what a grace he gravely showed his forward face, Jove talked of breeding him on high, and under something of the sky. But ere he gave the mighty nod which ever binds a poet's god, for which his curls ambrosial shake, and Mother Earth's obliged to quake, he saw old Mother Earth arise. She stood confessed before his eyes, but not with what we read she wore, a castle for a crown before, nor with long streets and longer roads dangling behind her like commodes. As yet with wreaths alone she dressed, and trailed a landscape painted vest. Then thrice she raised, as Ovid said, and thrice she bowed her weighty head. Her honors made, great Jove, she cried, this thing was fashioned from my side. His hands, his heart, his head are mine, then what hast thou to call him thine? Nay, rather ask, the monarch said, what boots his hand, his heart, his head, where what I gave removed away? Thy part's an idle shape of clay. Halves, more than halves, cried honest Care, your pleas would make your titles fair. You claim the body, you the soul, but I who joined them claim the whole. Thus with the gods debate began, on such a trivial cause as man. And can celestial tempers rage? Quoth Virgil in a later age. And thus they wrangled. Time came by. There's none that paint him such as I. For what the fabling ancient sun makes Saturn old when Time was young? As yet his winters had not shed their silver honors on his head. He just had got his pinions free from his old sire Eternity. A serpent girded round he wore, the tail within the mouth before, by which our almanacs are clear, that learned Egypt meant the year. A staff he carried, where on high a glass was fixed to measure by, as amber boxes made a show for heads of canes an age ago. His vest for day and night was Pride, a bending stick armed his side, and spring's new months his train adorn. The other seasons were unborn. Known by the gods, as near he draws, they make him umpire of the cause. O'er a low trunk his arm he laid, where since his hours a dial made. Then leaning heard the nice debate, and thus pronounced the words of fate. Since body from the parent earth, and soul from Jove received a birth, return they where they first began. But since their union makes the man, till Jove and earth shall part these two, to care who join them man is due. He said, and sprung with swift career to trace a circle for the year, wherever since the seasons wheel, and tread on one another's heel. "'Tis well," said Jove, and for consent, thundering he shook the firmament. "Our umpire Time shall have his way, with care I let the creature stay. Let business vex him, avarice blind, let doubt and knowledge rack his mind, let error act, opinion speak, and want afflict, and sickness break, and anger burn, dejection chill, and joy distract, and sorrow kill, till armed by care and taught to mow, Time draws the long destructive blow, and wasted man, whose quick decay comes hurrying on before his day, shall only find by this decree the soul fly sooner back to me." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
April by Jeannie Donnan. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. April has come again, dainty and sweet, with laughing blue eyes, and with light dancing feet. Primroses wake and spring up at her call, the pale tender floweret she loves best of all. Radiant she looks with pearls in her hair, and opening buds laced in her gown everywhere. In Cupid's sly pranks she takes keen delight, and often she laughs at his mischief outright. Light-hearted, love-laden, tripping along, with joy in her glances and hope in her song. And, as she walks the sunlit way, young hearts glow soft and warm, and old hearts thrill with youth today in April's winsome charm. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Autumn by Jeannie Donnan. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. A pensive smile is on her face, which tells of inward sadness, yet full of tender, thoughtful grace, a deep and quiet gladness, as blushing from the sun's soft kiss, she comes with gracious mien, and fills a waiting world with bliss, a fair and bounteous queen. She makes her kingdom truly glad, her promises fulfilling, and all her wealth she'll freely spread for eager hands and willing to gather of her richest store. And then what joy to hear the song of praise when labours o'er, resounding far and near. Whiles from the sun's soft melting gaze she hides her grey veil under, and lingers in the meadow ways, and laughs to see his wonder. Then, as he slowly sinks to rest, she sees, her mist veil through, the moon, in white and silver dressed, sail grandly into view. Sweet autumn, cheerful are thy days, with glad contentment teeming, but love is in thy moonlit ways, aye, sweet as poets dreaming. For, in the night queen's witching light, when winds full soundly sleep, the stars, with golden eyes so bright, awake their watch to keep. Then thoughts arise within the breast, of life full and fulfilling, of joy the truest, perfect rest, and love beyond all telling. For fruitful days and moonlit eves, for tints the loveliest, and for the spell she round us weaves, we love Queen Autumn best. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Bad Sir Brian Botany by A. A. Milne, read for LibriVox.org by Scotty Smith. Sir Brian had a battle-axe with great big knobs on. He went among the villagers and blipped them on the head. On Wednesday and on Saturday, but mostly on the latter day, he called at all the cottages, and this is what he said. I am Sir Brian, ting-ling, I am Sir Brian, rat-tat, I'm Sir Brian, as bold as a lion, take that, and that, and that. Sir Brian had a pair of boots with great big spurs on, a fighting pair of which he was particularly fond. On Tuesday and on Friday, just to make the street look tidy, he'd collect the passing villagers and kick them in the pond. I am Sir Brian, spurlash, I am Sir Brian, spurlosh, I am Sir Brian, as bold as a lion. Is anyone else for a wash? Sir Brian woke one morning and he couldn't find his battle-axe. He walked into the village in his second pair of boots. He had gone 100 paces when the street was full of faces, and the villagers were round him with ironical salutes. You are Sir Brian, indeed. You are Sir Brian, dear, dear. You are Sir Brian, as bold as a lion. Delighted to meet you here. Sir Brian went a journey and he found a lot of duckweed. They pulled 'em out and dried 'em, and they blipped 'em on the head. They took 'em by the bridges, and they hurled 'em into ditches. And they pushed 'em under waterfalls, and this is what they said. You are Sir Brian, don't laugh. You are Sir Brian, don't cry. You are Sir Brian, as bold as a lion. Sir Brian, the lion. Goodbye. Sir Brian struggled home again, and chopped up his battle-axe. Sir Brian took his fighting boots and threw them in the fire. He's quite a different person now he hasn't got his spurs on, and he goes about the village as B. Botany, Esquire. I am Sir Brian? Oh, no. I am Sir Brian? Who's he? I haven't got any title. I'm Botany. Plain Mr. Botany B. End of poem. This recording's in the public domain.
A Ballad of the Two Knights by Sarah Teasdale. Read for LibriVox.org by M. Lee. Two knights rode forth at early dawn, a-seeking maids to wed. Said one, my lady must be fair, with gold hair on her head. Then spake the other knight-at-arms, I care not for her face, but she I love must be a dove, for purity and grace. And each knight blew upon his horn, and went his separate way, and each knight found a lady love before the fall of day. But she was brown who should have had the shining yellow hair. I ween the knights forgot their words, or else they ceased to care. For he who wanted purity brought home a wanton wild, and when each saw the other knight, I ween that each knight smiled. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Between Us Now by Thomas Hardy. Read for LibriVox.org by Peter Thomlinson, London. Between us now and here, two thrown together who are not wont to wear life's flushest feather, who see the scene slide past, the daytime's dimming fast, let there be truth at last, even if despair. So thoroughly and long have you now known me, so real in faith and strong have I now shown me, that nothing needs disguise further in any wise, or asks or justifies a guarded tongue. Face unto face then, say, eyes my own meeting, is your heart far away, or with mine beating? When false things are brought low, and swift things have grown slow, feigning like froth shall go, faith be for aye. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Bull by Rainer Maria Rilke, read for LibriVox.org. I wish I might become like one of these, who in the night on horses ride astride, with torches flaming out like loosened hair, on to the chase, through the great swift wind ride. I wish to stay this on a boat in day, in darkness but with helmet made of gold, that shimmers restlessly, and in a row, behind me in the dark, 10 men that flow, with helmets that are restless, too, like mine. Now old and dull, now clear as glass they shine. One stands by me and blows a blast apiece on his great flashing trumpet, and the sound shrieks through the vast black solitude around, through which as through a wild mad dream raves. The houses fall behind us on their knees. Before us bend the streets, and then we gain. The great squares yielded to us, and then we cease. And on our steeds rush like the roar of rain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Burial by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. Mine is a body that should die at sea, and have for a grave, instead of a grave, 6 feet deep in the length of me, all the water that is under the wave, and terrible fishes to seize my flesh, such as a living man might fear, and eat me while I am firm and fresh, not wait till I've been dead for a year. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
If You Should Cease to Love Me by Corrine Roosevelt Robinson. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. If you should cease to love me, tell me so. I could not bear to feel your ardent hand that waked the chords of life to understand. Hold mine less closely. No, beloved, no. If you should cease to love me, tell me so. If you should cease to love me, do not dare to meet me with a mask of tenderness. I could not stoop to suffer one caress that any other had the right to share. If you should cease to love me, do not dare. If you should cease to love me, do not fear. I would not have you think I made one claim. If your great love should pass, there is no blame. For love grown cold, I would not shed a tear. If you should cease to love me, do not fear. If you should cease to love me, let us part, as friends who part for all eternity. Let us make grave the reverent obsequy, for what was once our very soul and heart. If you should cease to love me, let us part. But while you love me, keep our heart's deep faith, as some high priest would guard the holy place. Let me not see the shame upon your face of one unworthy of love's vital breath. So while you love me, keep our heart's high faith. Thus, if you cease to love me, save my soul by having kept our love so pure and high, that if the time must come when it shall die, I may retain my treasure fair and whole. If you should cease to love me, save my soul. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Conversation Galante by T.S. Eliot, read for LibriVox.org. I observe of a sentimental friend for me, or possibly fantastical confused. It may be Prester Jones with you, an old battered lantern hung aloft, to light poor travellers to their disgrace. She then how you digress, and I then someone frames upon the keys that exquisite nocturne with which we exclaim, the night and moonshine music which we cease to body forth our vacuity. She then does this refer to me, I'll know it is I who am in him. You, madam, are the eternal humorist, the eternal enemy of the absolute. giving our vagrant moods the slightest twist, with your air indifferent and imperious. At a stroke our mad poetics to confute, and are we then so serious? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service. Read for LibriVox.org by Jeremy Clark. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge I cremated Sam McGee. Now Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the South to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold, through the parka's fold it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd close, then the lashes froze till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed, and the stars o'erhead were dancing heel and toe, he turned to me, and, "Cap," says he, "I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request." Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no. Then he says with a sort of moan, "It's the cursed cold, and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet 'tain't being dead, it's my awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that, foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains." A pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. And we started on at the streak of dawn, but God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee, and before nightfall a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, and I hurried, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, "You may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, and it's up to you to cremate those last remains." Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, and my heart how I cursed that load. In the long, long night, by the lone firelight, while the huskies, round in a ring, howled out their woes to the homeless snows, oh God, how I loathed the thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow. And on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. And I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it, and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. Then, "Here," said I, with a sudden cry, "is my crematorium." Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was lying around, and I heaped the fuel higher. The flames just soared, and the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so, and the heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why, and the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out, and they danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, "I'll just take a peep inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked." Then the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar, and he wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, "Please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm." There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge I cremated Sam McGee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Excerpt from The Art of Preserving Health by Matthew Green, 1696 to 1737. Read for LibriVox.org. Excerpt from Book 2, Diet. Enough of air. A desert subject now, rougher and wilder, rises to my sight. A barren waste where not a garland grows to bind the Muse's brow. Not even a proud stupendous solitude frowns over the hearth, to rouse a noble horror in the soul. But rugged past fatigue, and error leads through endless labyrinths the devious feet. Farewell, ethereal fields, the humbler arts of life, the table and the homely gods demand my song. Elysian gales, adieu. The blood, the fountain whence the spirits flow, the generous stream that waters every part, and motion, vigor, and warm life conveys to every particle that moves or lives. This vital fluid, through unnumbered tubes poured by the heart, and to the heart again refunded, scourged forever round and round, enraged with heat and toil, at last forgets its balmy nature. Virulent and thin it grows, and now, but that 1,000 gates are open to its flight, it would destroy the parts it cherished and repaired before. Besides, the flexible and tender tubes melt in the mildest, most nectarous tide that ripening nature rolls, as in the stream its crumbling banks, but what the vital force of plastic fluids hourly batters down, that very force those plastic particles rebuild, so mutable the state of man. For this the watchful appetite was given, daily with fresh materials to repair this unavoidable expense of life, this necessary waste of flesh and blood. Hence the concative powers with various art subdue the cruder aliments to chyle, the chyle to blood, the foamy purple tide to liquors, which through finer arteries to different parts their winding course pursue, to try new changes and new forms put on, or for the public or some private use. Nothing so foreign but the athletic hind can labour into blood. The hungry meal alone he fears, or aliments too thin, by violent powers so easily subdued, too soon expelled. His daily labour thaws, to friendly chyle, the most rebellious mass that salt can harden, or the smoke of years, nor does his gorge the luscious bacon rue, nor that which Sestria sends, tenacious paste of solid milk. But ye of softer clay, infirm and delicate, and ye who waste with pale and bloated sloth the tedious day, avoid the stubborn aliment, avoid the full repast, and let sagacious age grow wiser, lessoned by the dropping teeth. Have subtilized to chyle, the liquid food readiest obeys the assimilating powers, and soon the tender vegetable mass relents, and soon the young of those that tread the steadfast earth, or cleave the green abyss, or pathless sky. And if the steer must fall in youth and sanguine vigour, let him die, nor stay till rigid age or heavy ails absolve him ill requited from the yoke. Some with high forage and luxuriant ease indulge the veteran ox, but wiser thou, from the bald mountain or the barren downs, expect the flocks by frugal nature fed, a race of purer blood, with exercise refined and scanty fare. For old or young, the stalled are never healthy, nor the crammed. Not all the culinary arts can tame to wholesome food the abominable growth of rest and gluttony. The prudent taste rejects like bane such loathsome lusciousness. The languid stomach curses even the pure delicious fat, and all the race of oil. For more the oily raiments relax its feeble tone, and with the eager lymph, fond to incorporate with all it meets, coyly they mix, and shun with slippery wiles the wooed embrace. The irresistible oil, so gentle late and blandishing, in floods of rancid bile overflows. What tumults hence, what horrors rise, we're nauseous to relate. Choose leaner viands, ye whose jovial makes too fast the gummy nutrient imbibes. Choose sober meals, and rouse to active life your cumbrous clay. Nor on the enfeebling down, irresolute, protract the morning hours. But let the man whose bones are thinly clad with cheerful ease and succulent repast improve his habit if he can, for each extreme departs from perfect sanity. End of excerpt. This recording is in the public domain.
Fireflies by Edgar Fawcett. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. I saw one sultry night above a swamp the darkness throbbing with a golden pomp, and long my dazzled sight did they entrance with the weird chaos of their dizzy dance. Quicker than yellow leaves, when gales despoil, quivered the brilliance of their mute turmoil, within whose light was intricately blent perpetual rise, perpetual descent, as though the scintillant flickerings had met in the vague meshes of some airy net. And now mysteriously I seemed to guess, while watching their tumultuous loveliness, what fervour of deep passion strangely thrives in the warm richness of their tropic lives, whose wings can never tremble, but they show the hearts of living fire that beat below. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Hermit by James Beattie, 1735 to 1803. Read for LibriVox.org. The Hermit. At the close of the day, when the hamlet is still, and mortals the sweets of forgetfulness prove, when naught but the torrent is heard on the hill, and naught but the nightingale's song in the grove, 'twas thus by the cave of the mountain afar, while his harp rung symphonous, a hermit began. No more with himself or with nature at war, he thought as a sage, though he felt as a man. Ah! why all abandoned to darkness and woe? Why lone Philomela that languishing fall? For spring shall return and a lover bestow, and sorrow no longer thy bosom enthrall. But if pity inspire thee, renew the sad lay. Mourn, sweet complainer, man calls thee to mourn. O soothe him, whose pleasure like thine pass away. Full quickly they pass, but they never return. Now gliding remote on the verge of the sky, the moon half extinguished her crescent displays. But lately I marked, when majestic on high she shone, and the planets were lost in her blaze. Roll on, thou fair orb, and with gladness pursue the path that conducts thee to splendor again. But man's faded glory what change shall renew? Ah, fool, to exult in a glory so vain! 'Tis night, and the landscape is lovely no more. I mourn, but ye woodlands, I mourn not for you. For morn is approaching your charms to restore, perfumed with fresh fragrance and glittering with dew. Nor yet for the ravage of winter I mourn. Kind nature the embryo blossom will save. But when shall spring visit the mouldering urn? Oh, when shall it dawn on the night of the grave? 'Twas thus by the glare of false science betrayed, that leads to bewilder and dazzles to blind. My thoughts want to roam from shade onward to shade, destruction before me and sorrow behind. Oh, pity, great Father of light, then I cried, thy creature who fain would not wander from thee. Low humbled in dust, I relinquish my pride. From doubt and from darkness thou only canst free. And darkness and doubt are now flying away. No longer I roam in conjecture forlorn. So breaks on the traveller, faint and astray, the bright and the balmy effulgence of morn. See truth, love, and mercy in triumph descending, and nature all glowing in Eden's first bloom. On the cold cheek of death smiles the roses are blending, and beauty immortal awakens from the tomb. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In an Artist's Studio by Christina Rossetti. Read for LibriVox.org by Julie Allan. One face looks out from all his canvases. One self-same figure sits, or walks, or leans. We found her hidden just behind those screens. That mirror gave back all her loveliness. A queen in opal or in ruby dress, a nameless girl in freshest summer greens, a saint, an angel, every canvas means the same one meaning, neither more nor less. He feeds upon her face by day and night, and she with true kind eyes looks back on him, fair as the moon and joyful as the light. Not wan with waiting, not with sorrow dim, not as she is, but was when hope shone bright. Not as she is, but as she fills his dream. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Inconsistent by Thomas Hardy, read for LibriVox.org by Avantika. I say she was as good as fair when standing by her mound. Such passing sweetness, I declare, no longer treads the ground. I say, what living love can catch her bloom and bonhomie? And what in newer maidens match her olden warmth to me? There stands within yon vestry nook, where bonded lovers sign her name upon a faded book with one that is not mine. To him she breathed the tender vow she once had breathed to me. But yet I say, O love, even now would I have died for thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Indeed, Indeed, I Cannot Tell by Henry David Thoreau. Read for LibriVox.org by Veronica Mead. Indeed, I cannot tell, though I ponder on it well, which were easier to state, all my love or all my hate. Surely, surely, thou wilt trust me, when I say thou dost disgust me. Oh, I hate thee with a hate that would fain annihilate. Yet sometimes against my will, my friend, I love thee still. It were treason to our love, and a sin to God above, 1 iota to abate of a pure impartial hate. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Invitation by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Best and brightest, come away, fairer far than this fair day, which, like thee to those in sorrow, comes to bid a sweet good morrow to the rough year just awake in its cradle on the brake. the brightest hour of unborn spring, through the winter wandering. Found, it seems, the halcyon morn, to hoar February born. Bending from heaven in azure mirth, it kissed the forehead of the earth, and smiled upon the silent sea, and bade the frozen streams be free, and waked to music all their fountains, and breathed upon the frozen mountains, and like a prophetess of May, strewed flowers upon the barren way, making the wintry world appear like one on whom thou smilest, dear. Away, away from men and towns, to the wild wood and the downs, to the silent wilderness, where the soul need not repress its music, lest it should not find an echo in another's mind, while the touch of nature's art harmonizes heart to heart. I leave this notice on my door for each accustomed visitor. I am gone into the fields to take what this sweet hour yields. Reflection, you may come tomorrow. Sit by the fireside with sorrow. You with the unpaid bill despair. You tiresome verse reciter, care. I will pay you in the grave. Death will listen to your stave. Expectation, too, be off. Today is for itself enough. Hope in pity, mock not woe with smiles, nor follow where I go. Long having lived on your sweet food, at length I find one moment's good, after long pain. With all your love, this you never told me of. Radiant sister of the day, awake, arise, and come away to the wild woods and the plains, and the pools where winter reigns. Image all their roof of leaves, where the pine its garland weaves, of sapless green and ivy dun, round stems that never kiss the sun, where the lawns and pastures be, and the sandhills of the sea, where the melting hoarfrost wets the daisy star that never sets, and windflowers and violets, which yet join not scent to you, crown the pale year weak and new. When the night is left behind, in the deep east dun and blind, and the blue noon is over us, and the multitudinous billows murmur at our feet, where the earth and ocean meet, and all things seem only one in the universal sun. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Mathematical Problem in Verse by Benjamin Banneker. Read for LibriVox.org by Darrell Nobles. A cooper and vintner sat down for a talk, both being so groggy that neither could walk. Says cooper to vintner, I'm the first of my trade. There's no kind of vessel but what I have made. And of any shape, sir, just what you will, and of any size, sir, from a ton to a gill. Then, says the vintner, you're the man for me. Make me a vessel, if we can agree. The top and the bottom diameter define, to bear that proportion as 15:9. 35 inches are just what I crave. No more and no less in the depth will I have. Just 39 gallons this vessel must hold, then I will reward you with silver or gold. Give me your promise, my honest old friend. I'll make it tomorrow, that you may depend. So the next day the cooper, his work to discharge, soon made the new vessel, but made it too large. He took out some staves, which made it too small, and then cursed the vessel, the vintner and all. He beat on his breast, By the powers, he swore, he never would work at this trade any more. Now, my worthy friend, find out, if you can, the vessel's dimensions and comfort the man. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Neighbour by Rainer Maria Rag. Read for LibriVox.org. Strange violin, dost thou follow me? In many foreign cities far away, thy lone voice spoke to me like memory. 200 play thee, orders but one play. Are there in all great cities tempest tossed? Men who would seek the rivers but for thee, who but for thee would be forever lost. Why drift thy lonely voice always to me? Why am I the neighbour always of those who force to sing thy trembling strings? Life is more heavy, thy song says, than the vast heavy burden of all things. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Night by Emily Bronte. Read for LibriVox.org by Veronica Mead. The night is darkening round me, the wild winds coldly blow, but a tyrant spell has bound me, and I cannot go. The giant trees are bending, their bare boughs weighted with snow, and the storm is fast ascending, and yet I cannot go. Clouds beyond clouds above me, wastes beyond wastes below, but nothing drear can move me, I will not, cannot go. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Our Little Ghost by Louisa May Alcott. Read for LibriVox.org by Lily. Oft in the silence of the night, when the lonely moon rides high, when the wintry winds are whistling, and we hear the owl's shrill cry, in the quiet dusky chamber, by the flickering firelight, rising up between two sleepers, comes a spirit in all white. A winsome little ghost it is, rosy cheeked and bright of eye, with yellow curls all breaking loose from the small cap pushed awry. Up it climbs among the pillows, for the big dark brings no dread, and a baby's boundless fancy makes a kingdom of a bed. A fearless little ghost it is, safe the night seems as the day. The moon is but a gentle face, and the sighing winds are gay. The solitude is full of friends, and the hour brings no regrets, for in this happy little soul shines a sun that never sets. A merry little ghost it is, dancing gaily by itself, on the flowery counterpane, like a tricksy household elf, nodding to the fitful shadows as they flicker on the wall, talking to familiar pictures, mimicking the owl's shrill call. A thoughtful little ghost it is, and when lonely gambols tire, with chubby hands on chubby knees it sits winking at the fire. Fancies innocent and lovely shine before those baby eyes, endless fields of dandelions, brooks and birds and butterflies. A loving little ghost it is, when crept into its nest, its hand on father's shoulder laid, its head on mother's breast. It watches each familiar face with a tranquil, trusting eye, and like a sleepy little bird sings its own soft lullaby. Then those who feigned to sleep before, lest baby play till dawn, wake and watch their folded flower, little rose without a thorn. And in the silence of the night, the hearts that love it most pray tenderly above its sleep, God bless our little ghost. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Poster Girl by Carolyn Wells. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. After Dante Gabriel Rossetti. The blessed poster girl leaned out from a pinky purple heaven. One eye was red and one was green. Her bang was cut uneven. She had 3 fingers on her hand, and the hairs on her head were 7. Her robe ungirt from clasp to hem no sunflowers did adorn, but a heavy Turkish portiere was very neatly worn, and the hat that lay along her back was yellow, like canned corn. It was a kind of wobbly wave that she was standing on, and high aloft she flung a scarf that must have weighed a ton. And she was rather tall, at least she reached up to the sun. She curved and whirled, and then she said, less green of speech than blue, "Perhaps I am absurd, perhaps I don't appeal to you, but my artistic worth depends upon the point of view." I saw her smile, although her eyes were only smudgy smears, and then she swished her swirling arms and wagged her gorgeous ears. She sobbed a blue and green checked sob and wept some purple tears. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Question by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. I dreamed that as I wandered by the way, bare winter suddenly was changed to spring, and gentle odors led my steps astray, mixed with a sound of waters murmuring along a shelving bank of turf, which lay under a copse and hardly dared to fling its green arms round the bosom of the stream, but kissed it and then fled, as thou mightest in dream. There grew pied windflowers and violets, daisies, those pearled arcturi of the earth, the constellated flower that never sets, faint oxlips, tender bluebells, at whose birth the sod scarce heaved, and that tall flower that wets, like a child, half in tenderness and mirth, its mother's face with heaven-collected tears, when the low wind its playmate's voice it hears. And in the warm hedge grew lush eglantine, green cowbind, and the moonlight-coloured may, and cherry blossoms, and white cups whose wine was the bright dew, yet drained not by the day, and wild roses, and ivy serpentine, with its dark buds and leaves wandering astray, and flowers azure, black, and streaked with gold, fairer than any wakened eyes behold. And nearer to the river's trembling edge there grew broad flag flowers, purple pranked with white, and starry river buds among the sedge, and floating water lilies, broad and bright, which lit the oak that overhung the hedge with moonlight beams of their own watery light, and bulrushes and reeds of such deep green as soothed the dazzled eye with sober sheen. Methought that of these visionary flowers I made a nosegay, bound in such a way that the same hues which in their natural bowers were mingled or opposed, the like array kept these imprisoned children of the hours within my hand, and then, elate and gay, I hastened to the spot whence I had come, that I might there present it. Oh, to whom? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Reluctance by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by N.R. Collard. Out through the fields and woods and over the walls I have wended. I have climbed the hills of view and looked at the world and descended. I have come by the highway home, and lo, it is ended. The leaves are all dead on the ground, save those that the oak is keeping to ravel them, one by one, and let them go scraping and creeping out over the crusted snow, when others are sleeping. And the dead leaves lie huddled and still, no longer blown hither and thither. The last lone aster is gone, the flowers of the witch hazel wither. The heart is still aching to seek, but the feet question, whither? Ah, when to the heart of man was it ever less than a treason to go with the drift of things, to yield with a grace to reason, and bow and accept the end of a love or a season? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Remorse by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Away! The moor is dark beneath the moon. Rapid clouds have drunk the last pale beam of even. Away! The gathering winds will call the darkness soon, and profoundest midnight shroud the serene lights of heaven. Pause not, the time is past. Every voice cries, away! Tempt not with one last tear thy friend's ungentle mood. Thy lover's eye, so glazed and cold, dares not entreat thy stay. Duty and dereliction guide thee back to solitude. Away, away, to thy sad and silent home. Pour bitter tears on its desolated hearth. Watch the dim shades as like ghosts they go and come, and complicate strange webs of melancholy mirth. The leaves of wasted autumn woods shall float around thine head. The blooms of dewy spring shall gleam beneath thy feet. But thy soul o'er this world must fade in the frost that binds the dead, ere midnight's frown and morning's smile, ere thou and peace may meet. The cloud shadows of midnight possess their own repose, for the weary winds are silent, or the moon is in the deep. Some respite to its turbulence unresting ocean knows. Whatever moves or toils or grieves hath its appointed sleep. Thou in the grave shalt rest, yet till the phantoms flee, which that house and heath and garden made dear to thee erewhile. Thy remembrance and repentance and deep musings are not free from the music of two voices and the light of one sweet smile. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Ride of Colin's Graves by John Boyle O'Reilly. Read for LibriVox.org by Mozartjr. No song of a soldier riding down to the raging fight from Winchester town. No song of a time that shook the earth with the nation's throe at a nation's birth. But the song of a brave man free from fear, as Sheridan's self or Paul Revere, who risked what they risked, free from strife, and its promise of glorious pay, his life. The peaceful valley has waked and stirred, and the answering echoes of life are heard. The dew still clings to the trees and grass, and the early toilers smiling pass, as they glance aside at the white-walled homes, or up the valley where merrily comes the brook that sparkles in diamond rills, as the sun comes over the Hampshire hills. What was it passed like an ominous breath, like a shiver of fear or a touch of death? What was it? The valley is peaceful still, and the leaves are afire on top of the hill. It was a sound, not a thing of sense, but a pain like the pang of the short suspense, that thrills the being of those who see at their feet the gulf of eternity. The air of the valley has felt the chill. The workers pause at the door of the mill. The housewife, keen to the shivering air, arrests her foot on the cottage stair, instinctive taught by the mother-love, and thinks of the sleeping ones above. Why start the listeners? Why does the course of the mill-stream widen? Is it a horse? Hark to the sound of the hoofs, they say, that gallops so wildly Williamsburg's way. Oh, what was that like a human shriek from the winding valley? Will nobody speak? Will nobody answer those women who cry, as the awful warnings thunder by? Whence come they? Listen, and now they hear the sound of the galloping horse hoofs near. They watch the trend of the vale, and see the rider who thunders so menacingly, with waving arms and warning scream, to the home-filled banks of the valley stream. He draws no rein, but he shakes the street with a shout and the ring of the galloping feet. And this the cry he flings to the wind, to the hills for your lives, the flood is behind. He cries and is gone, but they know the worst. The breast of the Williamsburg Dam has burst. The basin that nourished their happy homes is changed to a demon. It comes, it comes. A monster in aspect, with shaggy front, of shattered dwellings to take the brunt. Of the homes they shatter, white-maned and hoarse, the merciless terror fills the course of the narrow valley, and rushing raves, with death on the first of its hissing waves. Till cottage and street and crowded mill are crumbled and crushed. But onward still, in front of the roaring flood, is heard the galloping horse and the warning word. Thank God, the brave man's life is spared. From Williamsburg town he nobly dared to race with the flood and take the road in front of the terrible swath it mowed. For miles it thundered and crashed behind, but he looked ahead with a steadfast mind. They must be warned, was all he said, as away on his terrible ride he sped. When heroes are called for, bring the crown to this Yankee rider. Send him down on the stream of time with the courteous old. His deed, as the Romans, was brave and bold, and the tale can as noble a thrill awake, for he offered his life for the people's sake. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Seasons of Her Year by Thomas Hardy, read for LibriVox.org by Avantika. Winter is white on turf and tree, and birds are fled, but summer songsters pipe to me, and petals spread. For what I dream of secretly, his lips have said. Oh, 'tis a fine May morn, they say, and blooms have blown. But wild and wintry is my day, my birds make moan. For he who vowed leaves me to pay, alone, alone. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sister Maud by Christina Rossetti, read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. Who told my mother of my shame? Who told my father of my dear? Oh, who but Maud, my sister Maud, who lurked to spy and peer? Cold he lies, as cold as stone, with his clotted curls about his face, the comeliest corpse in all the world, and worthy of a queen's embrace. You might have spared his soul, sister, have spared my soul, your own soul too. Though I had not been born at all, he'd never have looked at you. My father may sleep in paradise, my mother at heaven gate, but sister Maud shall get no sleep, either early or late. My father may wear a golden gown, my mother a crown may win. If my dear and I knocked at heaven gate, perhaps they'd let us in. But sister Maud, oh, sister Maud, bide you with death and sin. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song by Christina Rossetti. Read for LibriVox.org by N.R. Collard. When I am dead, my dearest, sing no sad songs for me. Plant thou no roses at my head, nor shady cypress tree. Be the green grass above me with showers and dewdrops wet, and if thou wilt, remember, and if thou wilt, forget. I shall not see the shadows, I shall not feel the rain, I shall not hear the nightingale sing on as if in pain, and dreaming through the twilight that doth not rise nor set, haply I may remember, and haply may forget. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 116 by William Shakespeare. Read for LibriVox.org by Cavaet. Sonnet 116. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when its alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark, that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although its height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out, even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. End of poem. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Read for LibriVox.org by Arden. July 31st. Sonnet, published by Mrs. Shelley. Posthumous Poems, 1824. Our text is that of the Poetical Works, 1839. Lift not the painted veil which those who live call life, though unreal shapes be pictured there, and it but mimic all we would believe, with colours idly spread. Behind lurk fear and hope, twin destinies, who ever weave their shadows o'er the chasm, sightless and drear. I knew one who had lifted it, he sought, for his lost heart was tender things to love, but found them not, alas, nor was there aught the world contains, the which he could approve. Through the unheeding many he did move, a splendor among shadows, a bright blot, upon this gloomy scene, a spirit that strove for truth, and like the preacher found it not. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Sonnet, Political Greatness by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Read for LibriVox.org by Arden. July 31st. Published by Mrs. Shelley. Posthumous Poems, 1824. There is a transcript, headed Sonnet to the Republic of Benevento, in the Harvard Manuscript Book. Nor happiness, nor majesty, nor fame, nor peace, nor strength, nor skill in arms or arts, shepherd those herds whom tyranny makes tame. Verse echoes not one beating of their hearts. History is but the shadow of their shame. Art veils her glass, or from the pageant starts, as to oblivion their blind millions fleet, staining that heaven with obscene imagery of their own likeness, what our numbers knit, by force or custom. Man who man would be, must rule the empire of himself. In it, must be supreme, establishing his throne on vanquished will, quelling the anarchy of hopes and fears, being himself alone. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 44. For thee the sun doth daily rise and set, by George Santayana. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. For thee the sun doth daily rise and set behind the curtain of the hills of sleep, and my soul, passing through the nether deep, broods on thy love and never can forget. For thee the garlands of the wood are wet, for thee the daisies up the meadows sweep, stir in the sidelong light, and for thee weep the drooping ferns above the violet. For thee the labor of my studious ease I ply with hope, For thee all pleasures please, thy sweetness doth the bread of sorrow leaven, and from thy noble lips and heart of gold I drink the comfort of the faiths of old, and thy perfection is my proof of heaven. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Teddy Bear by A. Milne, read for LibriVox.org by Scotty Smith. A bear, however hard he tries, grows tubby without exercise. Our teddy bear is short and fat, which is not to be wondered at. He gets what exercise he can by falling off the ottoman, but generally seems to lack the energy to clamber back. Now tubbiness is just the thing which gets a fellow wondering, and Teddy worried lots about the fact that he was rather stout. He thought, if only I were thin, but how does anyone begin? He thought, it really isn't fair to grudge me exercise and air. For many weeks he pressed in vain his nose against the window pane, and envied those who walked about, reducing their unwonted stout. None of the people he could see is quite, he said, as fat as me. Then, with a still more moving sigh, I mean, he said, as fat as I. Now, Teddy, as was only right, slept in the ottoman at night, and with him crowded in as well more animals than I can tell. Not only these, but books and things, such as a kind relation brings. Old tales of once upon a time, and history retold in rhyme. One night it happened that he took a peep at an old picture book, wherein he came across by chance the picture of the King of France, a stoutish man, and down below these words, King Louis so-and-so, nicknamed the Handsome. There he sat, and think of it, the man was fat. Our bear rejoiced like anything to read about this famous king, nicknamed the Handsome. There he sat, and certainly the man was fat, nicknamed the Handsome. Not a doubt the man was definitely stout. Why, then, a bear, for all his tub, might yet be named the Handsome Cub. Might yet be named. Or did he mean that years ago he might have been? For now he felt a slight misgiving. Is Louis so-and-so still living? Fashions and beauty have a way of altering from day to day. Is handsome Louis with us yet? Unfortunately, I forget. Next morning, nose to window pane, the doubt occurred to him again. One question hammered in his head. Is he alive, or is he dead? Thus, nose to pane, he pondered. But the lattice window, loosely shut, swung open, with one startled "Oh!" Our Teddy disappeared below. There happened to be passing by a plump man with a twinkling eye, who, seeing Teddy in the street, raised him politely to his feet, and murmured kindly in his ear soft words of comfort and of cheer. "Well, well, allow me, not at all, tut, tut, a very nasty fall." Our Teddy answered not a word. It's doubtful if he even heard. Our bear could only look and look. The stout man in the picture book, that handsome king, could this be he? This man of adiposity? Impossible, he thought, but still no harm in asking. Yes, I will. Are you, he said, by any chance, His Majesty the King of France? The other answered, I am that, bowed stiffly and removed his hat, then said, Excuse me, with an air, but is it Mr. Edward Bear? And Teddy, bending very low, replied politely, Even so. They stood beneath the window there, the king and Mr. Edward Bear, and handsome, if a trifle fat, talked carelessly of this and that. Then said his Majesty, "Well, well, I must get on," and rang the bell. "Your bear, I think," he smiled. "Good day," and turned and went upon his way. A bear, however hard he tries, grows tubby without exercise. Our teddy bear is short and fat, which is not to be wondered at. But do you think it worries him to know that he is far from slim? No, just the other way about. He's proud of being short and stout. End of poem. This recording's in the public domain.
Terence, This Is Stupid Stuff by A.E. Housman. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Terence, this is stupid stuff. You eat your victuals fast enough. There can't be much amiss, 'tis clear, to see the rate you drink your beer. But, oh, good Lord, the verse you make! It gives a chap the bellyache. The cow, the old cow, she is dead. It sleeps well, the horned head. We poor lads, 'tis our turn now to hear such tunes as killed the cow. Pretty friendship 'tis to rhyme your friends to death before their time, moping melancholy bad. Come pipe a tune to dance to, lad. Why, if 'tis dancing you would be, there's brisker pipes than poetry. Say, for what were hop yards meant? Or why was Burton built on Trent? Oh, many a peer of England brews livelier liquor than the Muse, and malt does more than Milton can to justify God's ways to man. Ale, man, ale's the stuff to drink for fellows whom it hurts to think. Look into the pewter pot to see the world as the world's not. And faith, 'tis pleasant till 'tis past. The mischief is that 'twill not last. Oh, I have been to Ludlow Fair, and left my necktie God knows where, and carried halfway home, or near, pints and quarts of Ludlow beer. Then the world seemed none so bad, and I myself a sterling lad. And down in lovely muck I've lain, happy till I woke again. Then I saw the morning sky. Hi-ho, the tale was all a lie. The world, it was the old world yet. I was I, my things were wet, and nothing now remained to do but begin the game anew. Therefore, since the world has still much good, but much less good than ill, and while the sun and moon endure, luck's a chance, but trouble's sure, I'd face it as a wise man would, and train for ill and not for good. 'Tis true, the stuff I bring for sale is not so brisk a brew as ale. Out of a stem that scored the hand, I wrung it in a weary land. But take it, if the smack is sour, the better for the embittered hour. It should do good to heart and head when your soul is in my soul's stead, and I will friend you, if I may, in the dark and cloudy day. There was a king reigned in the East. There, where kings will sit to feast, they get their fill before they think with poisoned meat and poisoned drink. He gathered all that springs to birth from the many venomed earth. First a little, thence to more, he sampled all her killing store, and easy, smiling, seasoned sound sate the king when healths went round. They put arsenic in his meat, and stared aghast to watch him eat. They poured strychnine in his cup, and shook to see him drink it up. They shook, they stared as white's their shirt. Them it was their poison hurt. I tell the tale that I heard told. Mithridates, he died old. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To Earthward by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Love at the lips was touch as sweet as I could bear, and once that seemed too much. I lived on air that crossed me from sweet things, the flow of, was it musk, from hidden grapevine springs downhill at dusk? I had the swirl and ache from sprays of honeysuckle that when they're gathered shake dew on the knuckle. I craved strong sweets, but those seemed strong when I was young. The petal of the rose it was that stung. Now no joy but lacks salt, that is not dashed with pain and weariness and fault. I crave the strain of tears, the aftermark of almost too much love, the sweet of bitter bark and burning clove. When stiff and sore and scarred, I take away my hand from leaning on it hard in grass and sand. The hurt is not enough. I long for weight and strength to feel the earth as rough to all my length. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Touch of the Master's Hand by Myra Brooks Welch, read for LibriVox.org by Bookhorn360. 'Twas battered and scarred, and the auctioneer thought it scarcely worth his while to waste much time on the old violin, but held it up with a smile. "What am I bidding, good folks?" he cried. "Who's start the bidding for me? $1, $1, then $2, only $2, and who'll make it $3? $3 once, $3 twice, going for $3, but no." From the room far back, a gray-haired man came forward and picked up the bow. Then wiping the dust from the old violin and tightening the loose strings, he played a melody pure and sweet as a caroling angel sings. The music ceased, and the auctioneer, with a voice that was quiet and low, said, "What am I bid for the old violin?" and held it up with the bow. $1,000, and who'll make it $2? $2,000, and who'll make it $3? $3,000 once, $3,000 twice, and going and gone, said he. The people cheered, but some of them cried, "We do not quite understand what changed its worth." Swift came the reply, "The touch of a master's hand." And many a man with life out of tune and battered and scarred with sin is auctioned cheap to the thoughtless crowd, much like the old violin. A mess of pottage, a glass of wine, a game, and he travels on. He is going once and going twice, he is going and almost gone. But the master comes, and the foolish crowd never can quite understand the worth of a soul and the change that's wrought with the touch of a master's hand. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Trade Winds by John Masefield. Read for LibriVox.org by N.R. Collard. In the harbour, in the island, in the Spanish seas, are the tiny white houses and the orange trees. And day long, night long, the cool and pleasant breeze of the steady trade winds blowing. There is the red wine, the nutty Spanish ale, the shuffle of the dancers, the old salt's tale, the squeaking fiddle, and the soughing in the sail of the steady trade winds blowing. And o' nights, there's fireflies and the yellow moon, and in the ghostly palm trees the sleepy tune of the quiet voice calling me, the long low croon of the steady trade winds blowing. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Walrus and the Carpenter by Lewis Carroll. Read for LibriVox.org by Julie Allan. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd, because it was the middle of the night. The moon was shining sulkily, because she thought the sun had got no business to be there after the day was done. "It's very rude of him," she said, "to come and spoil the fun." The sea was wet as wet could be. The sands were dry as dry. You could not see a cloud because no cloud was in the sky. No birds were flying overhead. There were no birds to fly. The Walrus and the Carpenter were walking close at hand. They wept like anything to see such quantities of sand. "If this were only cleared away," they said, "it would be grand. If 7 maids with 7 mops swept it for half a year, do you suppose," the Walrus said, "that they could get it clear?" "I doubt it," said the Carpenter, and shed a bitter tear. "Oh, oysters, come and walk with us," the Walrus did beseech. A pleasant walk, a pleasant talk, along the briny beach. We cannot do with more than 4 to give a hand to each. The eldest oyster looked at him, but not a word he said. The eldest oyster winked his eye and shook his heavy head, meaning to say he did not choose to leave the oyster bed. But 4 young oysters hurried up, all eager for the treat. Their coats were brushed, their faces washed, their shoes were clean and neat. And this was odd because, you know, they hadn't any feet. 4 other oysters followed them, and yet another 4. And thick and fast they came at last, and more and more and more, all hopping through the frothy waves and scrambling to the shore. The walrus and the carpenter walked on a mile or so, and then they rested on a rock, conveniently low, and all the little oysters stood and waited in a row. "The time has come," the walrus said, "to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings." "But wait a bit," the oysters cried, "before we have our chat, for some of us are out of breath, and all of us are fat." "No hurry," said the carpenter. They thanked him much for that. "A loaf of bread," the walrus said, "is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar besides are very good indeed. Now if you're ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed." "But not on us," the oysters cried, turning a little blue. "After such kindness that would be a dismal thing to do." "The night is fine," the walrus said. "Do you admire the view? It was so kind of you to come, and you are very nice." The carpenter said nothing, but "Cut us another slice. I wish you were not quite so deaf. I've had to ask you twice." "It seems a shame," the walrus said, "to play them such a trick, after we've brought them out so far, and made them trot so quick." The carpenter said nothing but, "The butter's spread too thick." "I weep for you," the walrus said. "I deeply sympathize." With sobs and tears he sorted out those of the largest size, holding his pocket handkerchief before his streaming eyes. "Oh, oysters," said the carpenter, "you've had a pleasant run. Shall we be trotting home again?" But answer came there none, and this was scarcely odd, because they'd eaten every one. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Witchery of the Moon by Jeannie Donnan. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. When the sun with rosy blushes sank into the arms of night, there was whispering 'mong the rushes as they watched the fading light. For they knew the moon was waking, and they loved the Night Queen well, little secrets to her taking, and this story oft would tell. Of a fair young maid and lover, walking side by side one day, on the pathway by the river, talking low in lover's way. How they heard him softly pleading for an answer from the maid. How she laughed as though unheeding, and half shyly shook her head. How they came again at even, when the moon shone clear and high, and the rushes bent to listen as the lovers drew anigh, while the moon's caressing finger touched the earth with witching grace, and, as though it fain would linger, kissed the maiden's upturned face. Then with quivering lips and tender, to her lover's anxious plea, did the maiden make surrender, while the rushes shook with glee. But they heeded not the rushes, heart to heart the lovers clang, till the maid, with happy blushes, softly raised her voice and sang. Lady Moon, I love you dearly, with your silvery, witching light. I had lost my lover, nearly, when you gave me courage right to give answer to his pleading, whisper words he longed to hear, ope my heart up for his reading, show I held him more than dear. Lady Moon, you guard our love dreams, o'er us cast your spell of peace. Tender thoughts are in your soft beams, bidding worldly tumults cease. Like the oil on troubled waters, Lady Moon, you soothe and rest, and the hearts of earth-born daughters in your light find love is best. And the rushes, swaying ever in the quiet, restful light, croon the song down by the river to the Lady Moon at night, for they know she bound the lovers with a spell, and they believe that beneath her soft light hover spells no other power can weave. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Wordsworth by James Kenneth Stephen. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. Two voices are there. One is of the deep. It learns the storm cloud's thunderous melody, now roars, now murmurs with the changing sea, now bird-like pipes, now closes soft in sleep. And one is of an old half-witted sheep, which bleats articulate monotony, and indicates that 2 and 1 are 3, that grass is green, lakes damp, and mountains steep. And Wordsworth, both are thine. At certain times, forth from the heart of thy melodious rhymes, the form and pressure of high thoughts will burst. At other times, good Lord, I'd rather be quite unacquainted with the A-B-C than write such hopeless rubbish as thy worst. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.